Hi, today we're going to be talking about the Spanish letter X. Yes, it's very important to know all the pronunciations of the letter X because, in truth and in fact, if you're going to be speaking Spanish properly, you ought to know not only all the letters of the alphabet, but particularly the X and the varied pronunciations. Hoy vamos a enfocarnos un poquito de la letra X porque hay muchas pronunciaciones de la letra X. Es muy importante saber todas las pronunciaciones si van a aprender cómo hablar español perfectamente bien o súper bien. Habrá un video que va a enseñarles todas las reglas que gobiernan la letra X.
Hola, bienvenido a la clase español. All right, welcome to Spanish class. We're going to talk about the X today and the different sounds that it gives, right? It's not going to take long. Please bear with me as I try to empower you as it relates to the alphabet X, Spanish alphabet X, all right? So the focus today is el foco del día is the Spanish X, Spanish alphabet X, and the different sounds and the different sounds. And of course, there are 4 different sounds. See? Hay 4 sonidos de la letra X, and we're going to go through each of them very briefly. All right, just before I go through them, just to give you a little bit of history, that the evolution of the X, the Spanish X sound, is coming all the way back from when Old Spanish was being spoken, and you would have heard the SH sound then, sh sound. And of course, I'm going to get into the other sounds that we now have today. All right. So the first sound is the English X sound. First of the 4 is the English X sound. I'm going to give you a few words, not too many. All right. So the English X sound is also similar in the KS sound, right? So the English X sound is synonymous, is equal to the KS sound. For example, in these words, experiencia, yes, which means experience in English. Experiencia. So the EX, right? Even though it sounds like X, the English X sound, it is actually KS that you're saying. Experiencia. All right, so that's one of the examples of the English X sound of the Spanish alphabet X. All right, the other word is éxito, which means success, and it has an accent over the E. Éxito, which means success. All right, let me just put the meanings below. So this means experience, experience in English, coming from the Spanish word experiencia, and we say the first sound of the Spanish alphabet X, la letra X, is the English X sound, which is equal to the KS sound, right? So experiencia, the EX is actually translated to KS, and the meaning of experiencia is experience in English. And we are moving on to the second example of the English X sound of the Spanish letter X. Éxito. What do you hear? KS. Éxito. Even though it is EX. You are hearing the K and the S coming out. Éxito. And of course, this means success. I hope I'm spelling it correctly. Success. All right. Another example of the English X sound could be expresión. The same EX sound as in experiencia and éxito. Expression has EX, and of course it translates, the EX translates to the KS sound, right? All right, so let's move on to the second sound. So we're looking at the los cuatro sonidos de la letra X, right? So we're at the first, la primera or el primer sonido is the English sound, see? La sonida inglesa. So the second sound is an H sound. You must be wondering to yourselves, how does the Spanish letter X give this type of sound? Well, you know, as in different languages, it's culturally accepted, but sometimes to us as foreigners it sounds weird. And this is why it's important for us to know the history and the background to the languages that we are studying. We have to know the rules that govern the letters so that we appreciate and also honor the language that we desire to speak. All right, so the X was also pronounced as the H sound, as we're looking at just now, and some words still retain the original spelling and pronunciation for cultural reasons. As I was saying, the cultural importance is critical for us to observe. And so these are some of the words that carry the H sound. For example, I'm going to write it in the red, with the red marker, Mexico, which is pronounced as, you know, Mexico, and the accent is over the E, right? So the H sound rather is found in la palabra, ¿sí? Encontrado en la palabra México, which means Mexico. Mexico. So this is the X, sounds like a H sound, or a J sound. Mexico. Mexico. So we all know what this means. It means Mexico. Bear with me, we have two more left and I won't be long. All right, so we're looking at the other word, or the name of this place. Texas, as we all know. Texas City in America. But how is it pronounced in español? ¿Cómo nos pronunciamos? ¿Cómo lo pronunciamos en español? Texas. As if it is written with a H or J. Texas. Texas. Or a J. Texas. Look very carefully. So the X would have evolved from the English X sound or KS sound to a H sound. So we're looking at the word. Estamos mirando la palabra Texas en América de Estados Unidos. And it translates to be, or to sound as Texas with a H sound or a J sound. H or could be a J sound. So those are two sounds thus far. All right. So the X also can give a S sound. How interesting this is. From an X sound to a H sound to a S sound, depending on the word and the origin of the word, right? Depending on the consonants, the vowels, and the origin of the word, you will get the different sounds of the Spanish alphabet X. All right, so we're looking at the S sound. Let's look at some examples. So the Spanish words that start with X, for example, let me use the black marker. For example, the English word xylophone. 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 And in Spanish, this is how it is spelled. XILO with the accent over the O. And you know you have to emphasize or stress that O when you're pronouncing it. FONO. So the X in this word actually is pronounced with an S sound. Xylofono. Say it with me. Xylofono. Here it is. Xylofono. S sound. The other X word is xenophobia. And of course in English it sounds like a Z. The X for us sounds like a Z. So we're looking at the other X word. XENO. We're almost through. Just another example and we will be through. XENO PHOBIA. Can you guess the pronunciation of this? Xenophobia. In Espanol, it would be xenophobia. Xenophobia. So this is what the pronunciation would be. No. And let me write it with the blue marker. It might be easier this way for you to see it. Xeno with a F, phobia. You're not gonna see PH in Spanish. So it's XENOFOBIA. Xenophobia. Of course, with an S. Let me just write it. This is how you pronounce it. Yeah. In Espanol. In Spanish. In Spanish, xenophobia or xylofono. 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 And the fourth one is a SH sound. SH sound. For example, I'll give you one example. And this, based on information, it's deriving from the pre-Columbian languages. Let's look at the word. It's a Spanish word. XICA CALCALANGO. This looks like a weird pronunciation. If I didn't know the Spanish background, I would pronounce it as Zicalango. Yeah. Or Exicalango. Don't follow me. But as you look at it, sometimes we tend to pronounce based on what we see. But if we're ignorant, then you know we're going to mispronounce. And that is what I don't want you to do. I don't want you to mispronounce the Spanish words. And this is why I'm going through this bit of exercise for you, so that you can empower yourselves and speak intelligently when you're speaking Spanish. All right, so what is the proper Spanish pronunciation for this XICALANGO word? Let's find out. Remember, we said it's going to be it's a SH sound. Let me put the SH number 4. SH, let me erase this. So it's uniformed. So the last sound, el último sonido de la letra X is SH. Yeah, and we're looking at the word. Don't follow me. Zicalango. That's not how it is pronounced when we apply the information. I'm gonna tell you in a minute. Zikalango. The correct pronunciation with the SH sound is Shikalango. SHICALA with an accent over the A, NGO. Yes? Shikalango. All right? This would conclude our exercise looking at the Spanish letter X. Let me just recap a little bit. So we're talking about the X and the different sounds it produces, yes? And based on historical information, the original sound from the beginning was the SH sound, which we ended with not too long ago. But just to begin from the top, the first sound that we were looking at is the English X sound. And the English X sound is equal or synonymous to the KS sound. For example, in the word experience, we know experience to be EX, and we pronounce it as such, EX. But then when you go to the Spanish language, the sound that you actually get is a KS sound, right? A KS sound. Experiencia, which is the same as the X sound. And if you go to the second word, la segunda palabra, éxito, which means success, is the same. So when you see the Spanish word and you know that one of the sounds of the X, the Spanish letter X, is a X sound, you know it's éxito. The second sound is the H sound, or the J sound. For example, in the word Mexico. That's how we as English speakers would call it, Mexico. But in Espanol, lo pronunciamos México. So the X, you would substitute it with the H or the J, México. Texas, the second word, for the H sound, you would substitute the X with the H or the J, and you would get Texas, Texas. In Espanol, of course. The third sound, so we're looking at the X, English X sound, the H or the J sound, the S sound is the third sound that we're looking at now. And if we look at this, the English word xylophone, in Espanol, it is pronounced with a S. Xilófono, we spell it with an X, but in pronunciation, in Spanish, it's pronounced with a S. Xilófono. Xenophobia, it is pronounced with a S. Xenophobia. Xenophobia. So you substitute the X in xenophobia with the S. All right, the very last and fourth sound of the Spanish letter X is the SH sound. And if you look at this weird looking, forgive me, weird looking word, it's a beautiful word, but weird, when I look at it, I would wonder, how would I actually attempt, right, without fail, to pronounce this word? Xicalango. Like I mentioned earlier on, I would pronounce it as Zikalango. But in truth and in fact, when you apply the knowledge of what we are going through now, it is the SH sound that you will apply when you see such a word. It would be pronounced as Shikalango. And the emphasis is on the second A after the L with the accent over the A. Shikalango, with that emphasis. This concludes our lesson on the Spanish alphabet X. ¿Sí? Ahorita estamos terminando, concluyendo con la letra X en español. Gracias por mirarlo.